What's cracking, guys? Omar Isuf here, back with another video, back with a special guest. People call you the Muscle Doc, but you also have a name.
A real name.
A real name. I'm a real person, Dad.
Yes.
Jordan Shallow back on the channel. In case you guys don't know, Jordan is extremely knowledgeable. He is actually the person 2 years ago where I reached out to you like the butterfly that I was, and I said, Jordan, I have a dream. I want to deadlift 602 or 600 pounds, but I was dealing with some of that SI issues. You really helped me get over that. And then more recently when you told me to get an MRI, and then it's like, oops, something popped up with a hip that I had a partial labral tear. It's all that stuff. You really helped me through everything. You know your stuff. I could vet you on that. Today, we thought it'd be interesting to film a video in particular about the squats, about hip instability or the stability of the hip. Can you just talk about that a little bit before we get into this diagnostic tool? Are you going to explain?
Sure. I think a big problem with the fitness space is misappropriating or just not really understanding the difference between strength and stability, right? It's two totally different adaptations. Like, no one looks at me and goes, I bet you Jordan's a good runner.
Right.
Very clear that strength and endurance, totally different adaptations, right? But it's not so clear that strength and stability are different. So a lot of times when we prepare for big lifts, we worry about the strength of muscles that actually need to be stable. So we look to strengthen the stabilizers, right? Glute med, we'll put a band around the hips, or we'll do some side lying stuff, trying to strengthen the hip or strengthen the glute. But the glute med, especially the glute med, is a stabilizer. So it's a different, when we add force, we're building strength, but when we resist force, we're building stability. So this drill is all about isolating the stability at the hip and basically seeing what our baseline is in our most unstable position of the squat, where most of the injuries manifest, like in the hole of the squat.
Yeah, and what are some of those injuries? Because this is going to help out a lot of people. Well, you gave that, can you explain that vertical jump analogy that you were saying about where we're strongest?
Yeah, so more often than not, we can exert more force in our most stable position. Now, for most people who don't train functional stability as a separate adaptation, in structurally unstable positions, in our structurally stable positions, that's where we can exert the most force. So if we were to go to do like a vertical jump and you just kind of took one stride into your setup, basically where you found yourself is likely your most structurally stable position based off of the way your body's built, your morphology, right? Yep. Very rarely do people assume that, especially in a powerlifting or lower bar squat, assume that stance width, that narrower stance width. So we do have a trade-off in widening our stance and how much we need our functional stability, right? Because in that point of depth, we don't have that same structural buffer zone as we do when we're closer. So when we widen our stance out, we really want to see in that deepest moment of flexion in the squat or when we're in the hole, just how much are we managing with function, things like the adductors, things like the glute med, things like the piriformis, or how much has then kind of passed into the realm of structure. Structure could be intervertebral disc of your lower back, SI joint ligaments, labrum of the hip, and to some extent meniscus in the knee and ACL, all that kind of stuff. Yep. So it's a very isolated assessment of how well your hip functions from a stability standpoint. So then you afford yourself the right to load and start to build strength.
Absolutely. So for everyone that wants to squat stronger, this is relevant to you. Make sure, if you want to see more content, to leave a comment in the comments below. But without further ado, let's have Jordan explain exactly what this drill is and how it's relevant to everyone out there.
All right, guys, we're going to go over a quick assessment of functional stability of the hip as it relates to squatting. Now, long term, when people get issues when squatting, either their hip, knee, or low back, it stems from a functional instability at the level of the hip. So what happens is when we're at depth of a squat, this is our structurally most unstable position, right? So we need to make sure that from a stability standpoint, we're either getting stability from structure or function. So there's kind of this trade-off as we descend. Very structurally stable in this position. If we can imagine how sort of that hip articulates, that the femur head into the acetabulum of the pelvis, this is what we look like when we're standing up at the top of a squat. But as we come down, we rely less on structural stability and more on function. So long term, because we have kind of both feet on the ground, it's not really apparent to us if we're functionally unstable. So what we want to do is find that bottom position where we're comfortable in the squat, then think of the relative degree of abduction of the hips and then how like a straight line of gravity would affect the femur. So basically a straight line down through the floor and then creating a relative angle between the femur and that line of gravity. So we want to replicate that, but rather than being able to hide any of that instability in structure, we want to isolate the function of stability in that bottom position. So what we're going to do, we're going to plant one leg forward. We're going to kind of go into a single leg RDL. Now just think about the relative position of the femur and the pelvis, right? 0 degrees of abduction here, but we're going to open up and try and find that point of 90 degrees and hold, and then come back. So basically you're trying to replicate the relative angle in the bottom of a squat on one leg to put the function on trial, to make sure that we're buffering the force into the SI joint, into the lumbar discs, into the knees, that we can buffer that force with function and we're not relying on structure.
Well guys, that is all the time we have. Jordan, thank you for being once again on the channel, dropping that knowledge. Where can people find you?
Yeah, find me online, www.pre-script.com. So we kind of do all of our programming, all our corrective exercise stuff. There, and Instagram at the_muscle_doc.
Muscle Doc. I'm going to link all that in the description. If you like the video, make sure to like the damn video. I highly recommend you guys check out Jordan. He has a ton of great reasons. And like I said, your boy, I'm going to squat 315 again. It's happening. So check it out. I'll catch all you guys, my rascals, in that next video. Peace.
Eat your vegetables, eat your vegetables, eat your fucking vegetables.